Greetings, you are listening to The Heartful Technologist. I'm CK Hicks, and I wanted to share something a little off track from the technology side of things, although it does relate to technology. And really, in case it hasn't been made clear by me before, the whole Heartful Technologist, I guess, like brand or mission, is the intersection between humans and technology, the sustainable, intentional, purposeful, creative, other good words here, intersection between these two things, that there would be this overlap between our humanity and the technology and the other ways that we interact with the technical pieces of our world, because it's everywhere around us. And so how do we bring ourselves to it, and how do we approach it in a sustainable and especially an intentional way, thinking about the other people that are involved, other humans who are also interacting with the technology around us. And so I think this still fits, but I just want to share a little journey I've been on. It is currently January 20th, and I'm just about a month and a half, or I guess a little over a month and a half, into a 365 project that I started in December of last year. And what that means is making a photo a day and posting that photo somewhere as a discipline of doing it every single day. It doesn't sound hard, and maybe if you were to just walk through your house and snap something with your phone, you would think that would be easy, but it actually is really difficult. And I'm only, 50 days in, and I've definitely had those days where I kind of am thinking, what am I going to make a picture of today? Because I want it to be intentional. I want it to be something that is more than just, I'm sitting at my desk, yet another shot of my cup of pencils and things. I want it to be something that is observational, that I encountered as I went through my day, and something that I thought was interesting today. And so it becomes kind of a record of how you see the world and the types of things that you see. And I think it's a really interesting thing. I always ran away from them. I never wanted to do it because I knew that it meant, once you start on this, if you get to day, like me, I'm day 50, I'm like, okay, well, now I'm a seventh of the way through this thing. So I have to go 365, I have to keep going. And it would be interesting even to get to the end of the year and feel like, well, should I keep going? I've done 365. Why not 1,000? And I don't know if I'll do that. But the point is that the journey I've been on with this started very, very halting. It was reflexive. It was spontaneous. It was, unplanned, because I just would kind of think, okay, well, I have to make a photo today. So at some point I need to think about this and intentionally, point my camera in a certain direction. And over time, I kind of started to fall into a little bit of a rhythm. And there's definitely days where I'm like, oh, right, I got to make a photo, But you start to fall into a rhythm, and you think, okay, at some point today, something that I do every day is I make a photo. That's what I do right now for this year. That's what I do. And being make a photo a day guy for a year actually is rather clarifying. There are some things that relate to just having yourself put into this process that you force yourself to do on a regular basis, because we do this all the time with other things, right? We wash dishes, we shower, we do whatever other things in life that we choose to do every day. But the things that we would choose to do as a practice, and maybe even a time-boxed practice for a specific outcome or a learning and a discipline that we are trying to, I guess, infuse ourselves into or with, that's a really interesting constraint, and it's a really interesting pursuit. And if you ever have something like this, it doesn't have to be photography, it could be writing, could be whatever, a daily practice for a certain amount of time, I'm liking it. And that's not something that I thought I would say when I started. I just knew it was time to give it a try, because it was something that I was shying away from. So I said, okay, I got to do this. And like I said, it started off very halting, very reflexive. And now I'm finding that it's becoming intentional. It's becoming, something that I plan to do, something that I intend on doing at some point in the day. And when I actually take a moment in between other tasks or in between work projects or whatever, and I think, okay, I'm going to take 10, 15 minutes and I am going to choose what I want to make this photo of today, then I find that it forces me to actually fully detach from the situation I'm in. Again, not just sitting at my desk pointing it at something that's around me, but actually moving around the house or going outside, or as I'm running errands, bring the camera with me. And I have a whole story about this elsewhere that I can share that is, I ended up deciding I was going to change cameras every month. So it'd be a little bit of a creative mix up and a challenge on that front. So other stories for other times. But I think that overall, these are just the things that we can do that allow us to have a simple process that brings us forward in our creative process to have a higher confidence in that thing that we like to do or that we want to do more of, so that later we can say, hey, you know what? I did that for a year. I made a photo every single day and put it on the internet. And it's good or bad, but I did that for a year. And I can point to that and say, I did that thing. And that can give you a real boost. It's something that can be a real confidence booster. Even just during the process, you can tell people I'm making a photo every day. But then when it's done, I've seen photographers who have done this multiple times. And I think, wow, I'm at day 50 and I know how hard that can be just, even this long, but to do it over multiple years, like that's a really cool thing. I suppose I'd be remiss to not mention that anytime I talk about this kind of steady plodding forward, especially in a creative process or an artful process, my wife has kept a journal for, I think it's 15 years now. Just a single entry a day, and has done that long before we were married. And I remember the first time she showed them to me, I just was blown away by the compendium of like life history and moments that have been captured in this, And it could be we got married, or it could be, my grandmother passed, or it could have been some personal just observation about the world, whatever it was, but a single entry every day for over a decade, I think approaching 2 at this point. That's really cool. And I think that is something that, again, you take this into your own life and embody this how you will. But I think that there's some real value in how we can interact with the world and how we can interact with just a stream of creative concepts that we might have that are just simply gated behind a process. And if you can put a process into place, you might be amazed at the amount of things that start to flow through. And then it becomes kind of effortless. And yes, it takes diligence, but you don't think of it as a big deal anymore. And it's something that you can look back on and you see that you have this whole journey that you've now documented, really. And I think that that's something that we could probably pull in as technologists as well, whether it be a certain piece of something we want to learn each day, or just a simple, I've seen people who have done Advent coding challenges and other stuff like that. And I'm sure there are ways to take this into every discipline. And if you have ideas on that, or you want to share something that you've done that's similar, well, I would love to hear about it. Podcasts@ckhicks.com is my email. I always love getting feedback from these. And if you have something that you've done like this, or maybe you have tips for me on my 365 project, let me know. You can also watch along on Instagram. I do the weekly recaps there rather than posting that photo every day. I do that on my website. So if you want to go check those out, it's at ckhicks.com. And I think that'll be all for today. I want to tell you thank you for your time and your attention, and I'll talk to you soon.